You shocked, Alastair?
I'm shocked.
You. I'm glad you're shocked.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're looking at the biggest fights and most heated arguments on Have I Got News For You.
I mean, in private eye, you're sued every day, for God's sake, for what you say about people.
No, we're not.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Number 8. Conrad Black.
Also this week, what has David Cameron been saying about criminals? Conrad.
In late 2012, only a few months after being released from prison for various fraud convictions, Conrad Black appeared on Have I Got News For You in a misguided attempt to apparently rehabilitate his public image. Predictably, Ian wasn't having any of it, and wouldn't let Conrad off the hook.
9 acquittals, and they sort of ran out of steam. But the Supreme Court made up for it
No, you didn't run out of
unanimously.
steam, you ran into jail. They found you guilty, didn't they, Conrad?
Though Conrad was trying to insist that his numerous acquittals were proof that the charges he did go to prison for didn't hold water, Ian kept hammering home the point that the jury did find him guilty on more than one occasion, and that he'd just been released from nearly a year's sentence.
By the
But
Supreme
two
Court
stuck,
of the US.
didn't they? One for fraud and one for obstruction of justice.
Ian, please.
Oh, stop reciting the verdict as though it was true.
Did people like Lord Black after this appearance? No, of course not.
And I've come here...
You come here to say you're innocent, which is sweet, but not true.
Number 7. Journalists. Chris Addison had the Fifth Estate in his sights this week, in an episode for the 2010 election.
You don't tell him off, do you?
He's not a journalist. He, like me, is just an ill-informed bystander. Barely literate.
It was him and Paul Merton, 2 comedians, against Ian and Julia Hartley-Brewer, 2 journalists, and he let them have it. On every count, he questioned Hartley-Brewer's analysis of the unfolding political situation, as Nick Clegg was still in negotiations to form the ill-fated coalition government with Cameron's Tories.
Look, I don't understand why journalists don't appear to be able to see what the definition of a coalition is. Those 2 people don't appear to be in the same party. How can they be in a coalition? It wouldn't be a coalition if they're in the same party.
It did appear like a lot of commentators were arguing in bad faith, when they seemed to completely ignore that Clegg was a politician like the rest of them, and therefore put his own party ambitions first, every step of the way.
She said, well, this is actually about politics, and this is how politics works, you bunch of 4-year-olds.
Number 6. Boris attacks the show.
You're not aware of anything, Mark.
I think it's a bit early for you to start in on me on this show, Ian.
It was Boris Johnson's turn in the hot seat this week, and he was well and truly rinsed by the panel. He was unable to keep the guests under control, which included formidable journalist Emily Maitlis on Hislop's team as well, and clearly had an all-round bad time. When he tried to defend the royal family and Prince Harry, he was all but laughed out of the room.
I don't think there's enough respect for the royal family on this programme so far.
Poland.
I really don't.
How can you respect the band of murderers?
And when the show's writers made him read out the names of some well-known musicians who were current at the time of recording, he felt that he'd been well and truly stitched up.
According to Times, Farrell has been collaborating with Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake and Snoop Dogg.
You know they get you to read these out just to make you sound silly, you know that?
He later wrote a newspaper column to that effect, alleging that the show was rigged for making fun of him.
Everyone who attends gets a potato clock, and by 9 o'clock, they're out of the house and on their way to the awards.
What?
What?
Everybody who attends gets a potato clock.
Gets a potato clock.
Number 5. Johnny Mercer. In 2019, Johnny Mercer was found to have been involved in a dodgy bond scheme. He was a few degrees removed from the bond company itself, LCF, but people still viewed Mercer as taking an easy paycheck from a scheme that lost people hundreds of millions of pounds.
No, it's not the veterans bit, it's the £85,000 for a 4-hour job.
I know.
Mercer denied all wrongdoing and all knowledge of the long route the cash had taken to get to him through Crucial Academy, but was still grilled on his involvement by Ian Hislop.
It's about your behaviour and the fact that you didn't know. and didn't ask, as a non-executive director, where does the money come from for this
I did
company?
ask where it came from, and it came from the business that's generated by the business that we do.
It's true that Crucial Academy was trying to do good work with veterans, a cause closer to Mercer's heart, but it's hard to say that any job warrants being paid £350 an hour for 1 hour of work every weekday.
They were providing the money that kept your company going.
No, they
You were a
didn't.
non-exec.
No, they didn't. That's why the BBC are being sued for libel.
Number 4. Paula Yates. This fraught moment absolutely hasn't aged well, but it was a night to remember nonetheless.
Yeah, I was straight on the phone to somebody with a greasy shirt in Wapping saying, please discuss my breasts with the nation.
And can you buy the rights of my book?
Yes.
The episode was originally broadcast in October 1995, 5 years before Yates' tragic early death of an overdose. Her appearance came amid stories that Yates was leaking information about herself to the press to increase book sales. But rather than focus on that, the panel grilled her on whether she'd gotten breast implants.
Ian,
She was invited on this show.
please stop being unkind. Don't be unkind.
He's professionally
Shall I
obliged
stop
to
being unkind?
She retaliated against Ian on every count, especially when he accused her of selling her own pictures to the presses.
I am a bit worried, because apparently your current beau sort of beats people up, doesn't he?
He sometimes gets a bit cross.
These days, it wouldn't be newsworthy at all that someone had had implants, and they certainly wouldn't have to defend that decision on TV. Number 3. Alastair Campbell.
Now, that really is enough about the government's bad week. Oh, no, sorry. Andy Coulson.
Labour's feared ex-spin doctor was this week's host in a 2012 episode. There are a lot of people in politics and the press who probably wouldn't dream of speaking to Alastair Campbell this way, but Ian Hislop has never been one of them.
He's been arrested for perjury.
Yes.
During a trial where someone else was on trial for perjury.
Yes.
This was in the midst of Andy Coulson's trial for perjury, Coulson being the Tories' spin doctor at the time. Coulson had been and gone from the news of the world, but Hislop dragged Campbell and his connections to people like Rebecca Brooks into the spotlight, much to Campbell's dismay.
He's been charged, though, not just arrested. Yeah. He's been charged.
He's been charged.
Which is why Ian's being so careful.
Yeah.
About Andy Coulson, if not about me.
Ian stopped just short of libeling Campbell, refusing to give him the satisfaction.
Well, they haven't charged you yet.
Number 2. Piers Morgan.
Did you get sacked?
I didn't get sacked. I'm glad you just said it, because that's going to help pay for the holiday, thanks.
In this 1996 appearance, Piers Morgan had only been the editor of the Daily Mirror for a year, but had already made a name for himself in one of the most infamous publications in history after a brief stint at the News of the World.
I can just imagine a jury finding for the editor of the News of the World.
It's almost like finding the editor of Private Eye, isn't it? By the way...
Not only was Morgan being attacked by Ian, but he was also repeatedly questioned by his own team member, Clive Anderson. One of the things that was brought up was the Mirror's ongoing court case with Tory MP Rupert Allison, who was trying to sue the previous entry in our list, Alastair Campbell, at the time.
And no way would I be vindictive unless it was Rupert Allison.
Oh.
Hilariously, Allison would later try to sue Have I Got News for You for libel, which makes these barbs take on a different hue.
No, he's always bringing cases against it. He loves it.
Well, let's not fall out over this. Have we got the points?
Number 1. John Prescott.
Look at the top pledge on the top. We will invade Iraq against the wishes of the people of Britain.
When John Prescott appeared in a 2015 episode, years after he'd left frontline politics, the guns were drawn immediately. As soon as he could, Hislop brought in the illegal invasion of Iraq, which was strongly opposed to by the public at the time, and in hindsight is one of Britain's biggest foreign policy blunders in history.
I know you've got problems with the press and your private life, John.
I think the last time you raised it, you got the same move. Why don't you be more specific and say it?
Prescott tried to divert Ian's attention by pointing out how Ed Miliband stopped a similar thing from happening in Syria, but it wouldn't wash. And then Victoria got involved, when Prescott bizarrely tried to claim that candidates weren't to know the entire contents of their own party's manifesto before the manifesto was released.
Is the manifesto meant to be a massive surprise to Labour candidates?
For a minute, it felt like a fist fight would break out.
You two find a room.
Didn't you watch
You two
that?
find a room, and whoever comes out alive is the winner.
Let us know in the comments which guests you think never should have appeared on the show.
It probably seemed like a good idea when you said yes.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.